Minister, 7 months ago, a pensioner came into my office in Wicklow, and she had been told by the government that if she didn't have the €100 to pay for her water charge, Irish Water and this government would send men to her house to turn her water supply down to a trickle. And she came in to ask me what a trickle would mean for her. Would she be able to wash? Would she be able to wash her clothes? Would she be able to wash her dishes? This government humiliated that woman. They humiliated her, and they humiliated many men and women around this country because they didn't listen. Phil Hogan designed this legislation behind closed doors. Contracts were signed with local authorities behind closed doors. The charging regime was agreed behind closed doors. And then Minister Hogan marched in here. He told us all how it was going to be. Neither we nor the government TDs got really any chance to talk about it. And then he marched out again. And the approach at the time was arrogant, and it was heavy-handed, and it was, in my opinion, profoundly anti-democratic and bad for parliamentary democracy in this country. And the result, as we all know, has been fear and frustration and anger in the country. I believe it will lead to the waste of hundreds of millions of euro of public money. And it's seen the biggest mobilisation of mass protest in this country in decades. So I would have thought, in the face of so much public opposition and parliamentary frustration, that this government would, this time, have listened. But what happened? 2 weeks ago, the Taoiseach came in here and said, we will have a debate in the Dáil. We won't have it while the government is figuring out what to do. Government backbenchers and opposition members of the House will be given a chance to debate once we'd been told exactly what was going to happen. And what happened here yesterday? Minister Kelly marched in, he told us how it was going to be, and he marched straight back out again with the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach. And this is meant to be the debate. This is not a debate. This is members of government defending a position and members of the opposition challenging that position, but the position is not going to change based on this. This is a series of statements. The Minister and the government, the Cabinet, have made up their mind. Now, this inability to pay is not just, this inability to listen isn't just a matter of style. It's very much relevant to the substance. The people have said that consideration must be given to ability to pay. Now, €60 or €160 may not seem like a lot of money when it's being discussed at the Cabinet table, where the average wage is about €160,000. And it may not seem like a lot of money when it's discussed in here, where the average wage is over €90,000. But €60 or €160 is a lot of money if you're one of the 150,000 families in this country living in a house in arrears where clearly you have no money. And €60 or €160 is a hell of a lot of money to the pensioner who came into me several months ago in Wicklow and said she doesn't have it. She lives on €100 a week. At the end of the year, she doesn't have a spare €60. She doesn't have a spare €160. What's the government's response yesterday? We're going to make it easier for her to pay. The government's going to make it easier for her to pay money that she doesn't have. But actually, it's worse than that. I've been trying to work through what few numbers we have today. The meter that's been installed outside her house is going to cost about €40 a year. Now, the cost of billing her is going to be in excess of €20 a year, maybe up to 50 or more euro a year. So the cost to the state of billing her €60 a year will be more than €60 a year. The state is going to lose money trying to get €60 out of her. And when she says, I would pay you if I had it, but I don't have it, what's going to happen? Irish Water will refer to debt collectors, they'll hire lawyers, and the state will pay even more money. The people have said that the water supply must remain in public ownership. Now, the government and the minister here today have said it will trust us because we won't do that. But the people don't trust this government anymore. Rightly or wrongly, they don't trust this government. And none of us in here know what a future government is going to do. None of us in here know whether or not a ruling is going to come from Europe to say, based on our new competition rules, you've got to privatise your water market. We don't know that. And the answer that's been given is, we'll make the legislation say it needs a plebiscite. But the government can change the legislation. The government is not bound to hold a plebiscite. It can just change the legislation. The people have said that they're not okay with double taxation. So where's the financial plan showing that there won't be any double taxation? There isn't one. What we do know is that future government subvention to Irish Water will definitely be less than the current payments for providing water from central government. So we do know that some form of double taxation will remain in place. The people want certainty, but we still haven't been provided with a financial plan. We're told that even now, Irish Water is trying to figure out how much money it's going to invest after the next 2 years. This government has set up a multi-billion euro utility company with less financial acumen and forward planning than you'd expect to see in a school tuck shop. And it's set it up with other people's money. If any private sector group set up Irish Water in the way that this has been set up, they'd be fired and they'd be sued for negligence. What do we know? We do know that domestic charges over the next 2 years will raise about 90 million euro net. 271 million euro will be raised and a bunch of money will be given back. So net about 90 million euro. Now we know the water meters are going to cost somewhere between 500 million and 750 million euro. And we know that billing and customer service is going to cost many, many millions every year. So based on the current system, the only thing that is happening is that the Irish people are going to be charged to cover the costs of charging them. That's what's happening. That's not nonsense. And I will happily, Minister, sit down with you privately and go through the numbers. The problem is none of us have been provided with the numbers. Now, I want to make one final point. The people of Arklow and of 40 other towns in this country have no wastewater facilities. Minister Kelly acknowledged this in his speech yesterday. He stated that in cases where water coming in was unfit for human consumption, people wouldn't have to pay for that. We know that people with septic tanks don't have to charge. People with their own wells don't have to charge. Yet, for some reason, the people of Arklow and in 41 other places all over this country are being told, you don't have wastewater facilities, but we're going to charge you for them. So I'm calling on Minister Kelly to come in here this evening and simply apply the same principle that's being applied in Roscommon, that's being applied where people have wells, that's being applied where people have septic tanks. Apply that principle in fairness and consistency to the households and the businesses in those 42 areas. Thank you, Deputy.